Hi guys, Michael with Panacea Coffee. Today we are going to brew with the V60. So right off the bat, we'll just tell you guys, this is a pour-over dripper. There are other pour-over drippers. Actually, all of these on this side are pour-over drippers. And the main difference between the V60 and something like the Kalita Wave, just to show you, is the size and the number of the holes. So you can see the V60 has one big hole on the bottom, whereas the Kalita dripper has, the Wave has three smaller holes. And so what that means is that you really have to control the flow of the water through your bed with the size of your grinds. So the Kalita Wave gives you a little bit, it's kind of like having training wheels. This one is a little more finicky, but once you dial it in, you can really be specific with what you want to do. So it's all about the grind size. Today we're going to be brewing at a 1:16 ratio. Typically you adjust your ratio based on the level of your roast. So for darker roasts, maybe go for a coarser grind. So like, or the ratio rather, you would go like 1:15. Because we're doing a medium to light roast, we'll be doing a 1:16. So I have 30 grams of coffee here. So we'll be brewing 480 grams of water in overall. And today I'm brewing at a slightly higher temperature, so around 205. If you're doing a darker roast, you'd want to be closer to maybe like 195 for a really dark roast. So I am going to get these beans ground up and then we will start brewing. Okay, so now that we have our beans all ground up, we're going to prepare the filter. So first thing you want to do with this guy is get it kind of folded out like this. So I just match up this fold with this seam and just run across it. And that is so that it lays nicely in here. Okay, so first step is we're going to wet our filter, both to get out any of that papery taste, but also to warm up our decanter in this case, or your cup if you're brewing directly into that. Just enough to wet the filter all the way around. And then once we have that, we'll pour that into here. Get a little double warming action. And then now I can show you guys what the grounds look like. So we'll knock those in there and then we'll just make sure our bed is nice and flat. Just give it a little shaky shake. I'm going to turn on my scale. It's zeroed out and we will start with the bloom. And this just, it's kind of like the desert floor after a long drought. You know, you want to get a little bit wet, otherwise all that water just runs directly off. So this way, when we pre-wet, it just helps the beans fully saturate all the water when we do our further two pours. So I'm doing 30 grams of coffee, so you always double the amount of water of grounds that you have. So we'll do 60 grams of water in for our bloom, and we're going to do this for about maybe a 30-second bloom, roughly. And so in this case, like I said, we're just trying to fully saturate all of the grounds so that they're all ready to accept the rest of that water. So you can just give it a little bit of a swish around, just make sure that they're fully saturated so that we get even extraction all the way through. You wouldn't want some grounds to be wet, some not to be wet. So we'll wait a few more seconds, and then from here we're going to basically do it in two pours. So you can get the first pour just to kind of give yourself a benchmark. This is not like law or dogma or anything, but just as a reference point. Maybe you try to get 60% of our total water in by around like the minute 15 mark. So we'll start in the center here and work our way around kind of in a swirl pattern. And so 60% for 30 grams, like I'm doing it at that 1:16 ratio, is about 288 grams of liquid in, or milliliters in rather. So we're almost there. And we'll let it hang out for a second. And then from there, We'll pour the rest of our water in. We'll get all the way to 480 and we'll let it draw down. So we're just making sure we don't have any dry spots. We're giving everybody some love here. Okay, so we've reached our full brew amount. Normally I let it sit for just a few seconds to let it draw down a little bit, and then we can maybe give ourselves a little swish just to make sure all the grounds are, that was a lame swish, but if you're doing it over your cup, it'll be a little bit easier. We just want to make sure that we don't have too many of the grounds high and dry, making sure that they're all being extracted at the bottom of the bed. So it should be fairly flat at the end. Like if you're troubleshooting, just to see if you're on the right track. If at the end you have a nice kind of flat bed of grounds at the bottom, that's a good sign. It's fine if there's a few big guys hanging around on the edge. You just don't want too many, because then that coffee was not really contributing to your brew as much. So as far as a metric to know, like am I grinding too coarse? Am I grinding too fine? We can use time to kind of help us judge that. So typically you want to be done brewing somewhere in between the 3 to 4 minute mark. Again, not dogma, just a point of reference. So we're pretty much done here. We're at 320, so that was good. I would say that grind size is pretty good for this method, but you just adjust your grind size based on how fast or how slow your brew happened. So we'll put this guy right here. And at the end, we give it like a little swirl. Just make sure all the different layers of coffee are mixed together, especially if we're pouring a couple different cups. Want to make sure that everybody is getting blended cup of coffee. So we'll pour this out. And there you have it, some sweet, sweet coffee juice through the V60.